Good morning, stats classes, and good afternoon to seventh period stats class. Monday, I will be returning, so I'm sorry that I've been out, but I am healing, and I think I'm going to be ready to go for Monday. We're going to continue talking about describing data in this lesson today. Make sure you have out your notes and everything you need for this, and pick up where we left off. Uh, Last time that we talked, we were talking about describing data, and we talked ultimately just about the shape. We talked about all these different parts here: outlier, center, and spread. Um, but shape is what we heavily outlined. We talked about this idea of symmetric, skewed left, and skewed right, and we talked about creating stem plots and histograms. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go a little bit deeper into the other three: the outlier, center, and spread. Really, we're just going to focus on center and spread today, and we'll get to outliers later. I don't think we'll have time for it. But we're going to be writing down some definitions for center and then for spread as well. And I have another page that we're going to do that on. You also have a um, an example that we're going to do on the next slide. So let me go ahead and switch to this and zoom out. Okay, over here. So here's an example that we're going to do. Make sure you have an Inspire calculator with you because we are going to make a box plot out of this, which is one of my objectives. We're probably not going to get to the outlier rule today. We're just going to talk about measures of center and measures of spread. We're going to make a box plot. That's the goal, at least. So we'll see how far we get. Let's start by talking about how to describe the center. Okay. So you can make a new section here. So we're going to underline that. And you have two classic definitions. You'll already know what these are. You have mean, okay? And then you're going to have, leave yourself some space because we're going to write some new stuff, some new symbols in here that you may not know. So you have the mean, and then you have the median. Leave yourself some space between all of these because we got some definitions that we need to write down. So I'm going to pull up my slide here, and here's our first definition for mean, okay? What I've highlighted in blue is what you can write to start. We have a new symbol here. So to find the mean, most of you already know that you add their values for the set of observations, add the values, and divide by the number of observations. I actually want you to write this. Of a set of observations. Let's actually put that. That's important. So of a set of observations, add their values and divide by the number of observations. Classic definition of mean. I'll give you, if we want to pause it while everybody finishes writing, we can do that. And now that everybody's finished writing, here is a more sort of fancy way of writing this. Okay, the sum of the observations. We take observation 1, add it to observation 2, add it to observation 3, so on and so forth till we get to the last observation, divided by n. And in this class, we've talked about n, that is your sample size, or the number of observations that occur. You don't have to write this, but I do want you to write this last part here, not this statement, but this little symbol here, all of this, because this right here, x sub I, this is the same thing as what's happening here. So you can substitute this, that they have x sub 1 plus x sub 2 plus dot 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 x sub n for this. And this Greek symbol is called sigma. Okay, so we're actually going to write this in our notes right below that. So I'm going to write this. We have um, x bar is equal to, you have sigma x sub I over n. And we're going to draw an arrow to this, and we're going to put in quotations as they wrote it here. It means to add them all up. Okay, that's what it means. And that is a symbol that we'll use quite a bit in stats. And anywhere you see it, just know that this is what it means. It means add them all up. Okay, let me fix this. Okay, that is our mean. That's how we find that. Now, in most cases for us, we're going to have the calculator do it. I'll talk about that on Monday. Let's just move on to median. Okay, so for your median, quite a bit to write here. But the first part of it's very simple. It's the midpoint of a distribution. But Students that come to this class still sometimes have trouble finding it, especially by hand. A lot of times we're going to have the calculator help us with this. Um, but we're going to write down these steps right below when you write that definition. To find the median of a distribution, you're going to arrange all observations from largest to smallest. Okay. Then, if the number of observations is odd, the median is the center observation in the ordered list. Sometimes you have observations there's an odd number of them, and in that case, you average the two center observations. Okay. We can pause the video and you can get this copied down. Okay. So a lot of times, and in this class, you found the median before at some point in your math careers, and we're really going to let a lot of technology find these things for us. But it is very important that you understand the concept of it, and you have the ability to estimate where it would be, say on any stem and leaf plot or any dot plots. This is from our last slides. Where is that median? Where's that midpoint? And you're able to sort of estimate where that center is. We'll talk about that a little bit more Monday, but a lot of times you can actually predict where it is just by looking at the distribution. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is the measures of spread. I'm writing this with a mouse, so sorry it's taking so long. So the measures of spread. Sometimes not knowing where the center is isn't enough information for us. If I said the average ACT score at our school was 22, but then I said that the lowest was 12, right, and the highest was 35, I think. There's still a large variation of data from that average that we're talking about. So sometimes we want to know how spread out is our data, how far away are the lowest and how far away are the highest points in that data, because sometimes that can be useful to know. So for our measures of spread, for now, there's a big one that we're going to get to. Right now we talked about we're going to use the range, but we're going to start by copying down some of these items from this slide. So measuring spread, we have the inner quartile range, this IQR. I'll write that down. So we have the inter quartile range. Okay. So this is a huge idea in this chapter. Basically, we have this idea of a quartile, and a lot of you should be thinking that quartile means 4, right? Quarters, 3 to 4. So that's how you need to be thinking about data. We can split it up in such a way that there's 4 quarters of data. All right, and that needs to stay in mind. You can also think about it as 25%, right? Because quarters are 25%. That comes into play here, and there's going to be a lot of questions that get asked to you about data and how much would be between certain amounts of quartiles. So let's go ahead and define a few things. Interquartile range. We are going to start with this, and I'm going to underline some stuff, and this is what you need to write. So it says how to calculate the quartiles and the IQR. Okay, so we're going to write this, make a section for that. Okay, so arrange the observations in increasing order. That means from low to high, if that's better for you. Just like the median. Okay, because we had to, and it says, and locate the median. All right, so arrange the observations in increasing order, locate the median. All right. The first quartile, Q1, so if you want to abbreviate this, Q1, you could even just put Q1, is the median of the observations located to the left of the median. Okay? So we have data and we cut it in half, then we look at the first half of that data, and cut it in half. That's sort of what's happening. And then you have the third quartile, which is the opposite. This time, the median of observations located to the right of the actual median itself. Okay. And then we have our definition for interquartile range. So where I wrote interquartile range just on my other whiteboard, you can write this. You're subtracting the Q3 and the Q1 in that order, though. Order does matter here. Okay. And that tells you how spread out the data is about that median. Okay. So this is a way that we describe this idea of spread. So if I ask you what the spread is of a data set, this should be what comes to mind as of right now, is I'm trying to find the quartiles and I'm going to subtract them. All right. So that is what I wanted to cover as far as finding measures of center and then measures of spread. But I definitely want to talk about how to construct a box and whisker plot. Okay. So what I'd like everybody to do is grab your calculators. If you're using an 80 series, you can do that, but right now all I have for directions are the Inspire. Okay. So let's if you want to grab an Inspire and do it that way first with everybody, let's do that. Okay. So I'll give you a moment to grab one of those. But here is our data set. This is showing different hamburgers at McDonald's and their fat content in grams. And the variable here that we're interested in is actually the fat content. This is the quantitative data. We want to turn this into a box plot. Okay. So in your notes, you can just put example. Let's just write this and let's just practice it. Okay. So we want to turn this into a box plot. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull up a video that I found on how to create this. I don't have audio. I'm just going to describe it. So everybody needs to open up you got a new document, open up list and spreadsheet. All right, new document, go to list and spreadsheets and title your graph here. We're not going to title it sandwich, okay? Because we don't care about the type of sandwich. We care about the fat content, which is our quantitative variable. All right. So you're going to you're going to title your list fat, and then you're going to type in the fat content down below. Okay. I'll give you a moment to do that if we need to pause the video. Let everybody type in their data. Okay. All right. So once you have your data typed in, let's go to here. Okay. So all the data points are actually in, and this video, by the way, is not what you're typing in. This is just an example. So once you have the data typed in, you're going to press Control. Notice how that highlighted red. And then you're going to press the Document button, which is what it's going to do is add a page. So you hit this blue button, and then right here, okay, blue button right here. If we need to rewind so anybody can see that, just rewind the clip. And it pops up in a new page, and it asks you what you want to do. Well, what we want to do with this is we want to select number 5, Add Data and Statistics. And you'll see how this mouse here is going to go to number 5 and click that. So we want number 5. And what you're going to see are all these dots floating. Okay, and up here it'll say caption. It's going to say fat. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to assign a variable. Well, our fat content is going to be our X variable. So everybody needs to use the touchpad up here. Look at my mouse. This is a touchpad. Brush your finger over it, and you'll see that the mouse on your screen will move around. All right. Go to the bottom. Once you highlight over here, it's going to say click or enter to add a variable. And then you're going to click the center of that touchpad. Okay. And it's going to give you options. Here, for this example, it says A, but on your calculator, it's going to say fat, and you're going to click it. Okay. So go ahead and do that. And what it's going to do is it's going to arrange them into a dot plot for you, which is fine. Now you know how to make a dot plot, which was our last lesson, how to make a dot plot. Now I think I already got to this with a few classes. No, I think I just got to it with one class, but we looked at how to make a dot plot. An 80 series calculator will not make a dot plot. Okay, so the Inspire is the only one that's going to show this. So continuing, we don't want a dot plot. We want a box and whisker plot. So how do we do that? Well, you go to menu, and you probably remember this from when we did pie charts and bar charts. You go to plot type, and you can see right here we're already in a dot plot, but we want a box plot. If you wanted a histogram, you could do a histogram, but we're interested in a box plot. So go ahead and click box plot, and it will change your values into a box. All right. Now what I'd like you to do, this is not the correct box. You're going to look off of yours, and you are going to draw yourself. What? Okay. You're going to draw yourself a box and whisker plot. So draw yourself a flat line. Make an appropriate scale. What's your lowest? What's your highest? Well, looking at this, the lowest is 9. We'd probably be better off just to go from 0 to, what's the highest? 42. So go 0 to 50. Or whatever the calculator is going to give you a scale, so use that. Hopefully it uses 0. I don't know if it will. But make your scale, put the tick marks, and then graph whatever it's showing in your notes. Okay? And then after you get that drawn and everything, let's go ahead and write out these things. We want the minimum. We want the not maximum. Let's go ahead and get the quartile 1. We'll want the quartile 2, quartile 2 or the median. I'm going to call it quartile 2 because I want you to go ahead and see that. In parentheses, put the median. It's okay. We need to make sure we understand that that's what that is. Next, we're going to go to the quartile 3, and then we want the maximum. We'll talk about how to get these in a second. Go ahead and finish drawing this. We can pause the video while everybody finishes drawing their box plot from the graph. Okay, so once you've got your box plot constructed, now we can analyze it a little bit to find all these key features. There's questions in your study guide. There'll be questions on the test that ask you to find these. And so let's look back on here. What you can do is you can actually use the touchpad to move the mouse again, just like last time when you're moving the cursor around your screen. You can do that and watch what happens as you move it to different parts of this. You'll have a little hand that shows up. It shows you the different parts. So down here, the minimum was 2 in this data set, but what is it for us? Well, it should be a 9. Quartile, so you'll write down under minimum whatever it shows, which would be 9. Then you go to quartile 1, then you go to, slide over, here's the median, put that for quartile 2, whatever that is, quartile 3, and then you have the maximum. Okay, our maximum is 42, so we can go ahead and write down some of these things. I haven't actually graphed ours, so I'm trusting that you're going to get these values for me, and I'll be looking at them on Monday because I don't have the calculator on my computer, which I'm probably going to fix soon. Okay, so that concludes our notes for today. Depending on how much time is left in class right now, there is a worksheet that I want you to look at. Practice making these box and whisker plots again. We have this sheet here that you're going to be looking at and filling out, but it's just asking you to practice creating box and whisker plots a little bit more, which now you should have more experience with since we had this lesson today. So I'm going to leave you with that, and I will see you on Monday.